All right, y'all, welcome to the definitive tier list. And by definitive, I mean I made it the f up. It's a joke. In my opinion, the game is still going to be rebalanced and retooled quite a bit, and that's going to be from the characters probably to the combat and mechanics, how things work, not only in potentials and stats, but most likely dupes as well. But we can still look at the characters as their, kits themselves and how they felt in the playtest, so this is mostly just for fun. All right, we got a storm that just picked up. Hopefully it doesn't pick up too much over the mic, but I went ahead and put a bunch of characters in the didn't pull category because I didn't pull them. Technically, I pulled Hugo and Lukas here, but I pulled them on the last day, so I didn't even get to really play them. So we're just putting them in the didn't pull, didn't play category, but we can look at their kits at the end and then just for fun kind of see where I think they would rank / what I've heard from other people at least. All right, some people might be upset about this, but Amir is probably the only person who I'm going to put in this tier because I didn't put her in here. I don't think I'd put anybody in here. She's fine, and I think I could say that about pretty much every character. But that's it, she's just fine. Her whole gimmick and mechanics is really underwhelming as far as damage and shielding potential goes. Now, we're not going to go too in-depth on these characters again. I think that they will all be tweaked, at least even just a little bit. But just looking at her kit, she doesn't actually have a lot of shield in her kit. And her metallicized gimmick that she has, it all revolves around shield. And all that is it's a stacking buff. When you gain shield, it will consume a stack and she'll do 80% defense-based damage. So it's death by 1,000 knives, but she ends up just not really doing enough, either shielding or damage. When you have Maribell, who has counter, she has big shields, and then she has the one where she just deals damage based on how much shield you've accumulated. So she's just like an insanely better pick as far as survival or damage goes. And then even just looking at her ego, it is again very underwhelming. You have to consume a bunch of metallicize, which she doesn't have a lot of generation for to begin with, just to gain a okay amount of shield, which is going to cost 3 ego points? It's like 3 or 4. So yeah, Amir, she ended up just being very underperforming. I actually tried out a completely tank down team with Magna and Khalipe with Amir. And then I just swapped Amir for Maribell, run the same stage, and it was so much smoother, so much cleaner with Maribell. Yeah, Amir just, she doesn't contribute enough in any direction, really. So yeah, I'm sorry to say for Amir lovers, I just don't think she's very good, but I do hope that they rebalance and then make her a little more viable or a little more usable, even in just the 4-star category. Now, Beryl here, I think Beryl has a lot of potential. She can deal large amounts of damage. The only thing I would really say she lacks is multi-hit. And when it comes to a lot of these games where you have very numbers-based damage and number-based buffs, like let's say you get a 100% damage buff, that means that a attack that hits for 50% 2 times is now going to hit twice for 100%, and then an attack that hits for 100% is now going to hit for once 200%. They sound even, and they pretty much are, but you can crit in this game. And because you can crit, multi-hits are going to be a lot more consistent, especially when we're looking at earlier on. And then depending on how they end up balancing multi-hit attacks, a percentage boost is just going to boost multi-hits a lot more. There's this AoE card that hits for 3 times, for example, Overwhelm, 0 cost. Amazing, fantastic card. As soon as you get that thing buffed, it goes bonkers. Thank you to Kyoya Fuya. I'm going to put links to their channel and to the spreadsheet in the description because it's very thorough, very good looking. Great job, good shit. This is an amazing tool right here. So we'll be using this to look at characters cards. So looking at Beryl, she's got some really good cards here. One of the biggest ones would be Guilty Pleasure, 0 cost, draw 3. Any draw power is just insanely good. She has a little bit of shield, a little bit of buffing her own stuff. She can generate some cards and then as well as like with some upgrades they'll actually become free or cheaper. So she ends up actually being able to spam quite a few cards with the Heavy Weapon Specialist. And then Charge Shot being a 2-drop, decent nuke. And then for every turn you hold it in your hand, you get 100% more damage. And then Opening Found, this one I think is, personally I think it's her best card. It's 160% damage. If you hold it for a turn, then you get an extra attack, so it'll hit twice, 160, and then 120. So just that 2-hitter already makes it insanely good. The bad thing is you can't hold it like Charge Shot. So Charge Shot has its place. My only real issue with Beryl and these big nuking single hits is the fact that the preserve, the actual buildup over time for letting it just kind of sit in your hand, taking up hand space, is that the scaling is, it's not a lot. 100% for having to sit in your hand every turn is not crazy, but it can get up to big numbers if you already have a bunch of draw power for the rest of your hand. So that way you can burn all of that energy and allow it to kind of get to a point where you can nuke and then just kind of finish out a fight like that. So I think she has her place. I think she is very solid, but she just needs a little more boost in as far as like her like retaining and damage building up. So I think the nuke potential is there, but the lack of multi-hits, the lack of the damage building up fast enough, or ramping, there we go, that's the word I'm looking for, ramping, I think that kind of sets her back a little bit as far as damage goes. I'm torn to put her between B or C. I'm going to put her in B, because this is without even factoring in any potentials or, you know, the fact that she's a 4-star, it's going to be a lot easier to get dupes. We're not really going to consider dupes, but I think that she has a lot of potential. That's the big part. So I'm putting her in B. She, you know, she was pretty solid whenever I ran her. Now Cassius, people that played the playtest are going to be, I don't know, maybe a little torn on my decision here. It's tough. It's tough. I really want to put him into S tier, but I think I'm going to put him in A. He's amazing. He's a great unit. So his big deal is that he essentially just draws a bunch of cards, and he can draw a lot. He can help you cycle. He can shuffle your hand, give you a mulligan basically. I don't know if he has the only, no, I doubt it, but he has a tutor, I think, just in his base deck. So you can go ahead and search out a card to open up any specific combos. And yeah, it's mostly draw power. He's got a little bit of healing. He does have some stacking damage through his questing that he does with the card, which is kind of a fun gimmick. But all that stuff, at least as far as his damage is concerned, it really has to build up a lot over time. But if you can actually get his card buffed, like get a lot of buff numbers and then finish a lot of quests, every time you finish a quest, one of his cards, it'll like attack again. So he has a potential to go really high. But in general, he's slotted in mostly for drawing and cycling, and he does a fantastic job of that. So I think it's inarguable that he could be put into S or A. I'm just going to put him in A, because although I value card draw and cycling more than most people, I just think that there's going to be a lot of gimmicks, as there already was in the Blue Pot Chaos Zone, where you're going to get punished for playing a lot of cards, and a lot of enemies are going to be able to reset their actions. So playing a lot of cards, fantastic, it's great, but maybe a little too punishing that I think it'll be down the road. But I'm putting him in A. And let's see, who do we got next? Okay, speaking of S tier, Khalipe. I mean, if anybody's played, anybody's seen anything about this game so far, Khalipe is easy S tier. Easily probably the best character in the game. I actually stopped using her because I think she's just way too good. She is way too good. And it's all pretty much just because of this keyword here, Celestial. She has 2 cards that have Celestial. And all that this does is it plays the card out of your hand for free if you play a 2-cost or higher card. And then especially for shorter fights, her biggest one, Vulture Ejection, this one also has Retrieve, which means that the first time it goes into the trash, it will just come right back. So you play the 2-cost, these Celestial cards will play for free, and then any of them with Retrieve will then just come back for free as well, so you can do it all over again. You play the 2-cost, you play all the Celestial cards for free, and you don't actually play them, it just happens automatically, so it doesn't actually count down the enemy timer whatsoever. And then it'll just come back to hand and you'll be ready to do it again the next turn. So just all that together just makes it very strong. It's basically one enemy action and you get a lot of value out of it. That can be a lot of shield, a lot of AoE damage. She's nuts. And then, I mean, like looking at like full salvo, this is an insanely strong card, very strong damage potential, 80% more damage for every card in your hand that's 2-cost or higher. And then Rally is also an insane card, like 1-cost, 200% shield, and then draw your highest cost card, which could be one of the Celestials or something else that can trigger the Celestial. So everything just kind of works together really, really well. She's got the AoE, she's got the damage, she's got the shield. She doesn't need anything else. So yeah, easy S tier. Luke. Luke is C tier. Luke is mid. Luke is early game okay, and then end game, who knows? He has a lot of like potential as far as his kit goes, but in the early to mid game, if he's like your like primary 5-star, you can make him work. I made him work in a few runs, but you're definitely better off just running pretty much anything else until you get into the gear where you can actually boost his crit rate. So Luke is a bullet-based character. He generates a lot of these 0-cost bullet cards, and he gets a lot of benefits for playing them, as well as the bullets themselves doing some pretty good damage. So he suffers from having to play a lot of cards. You know, I'm going to keep saying that. I'm going to personally say that that's kind of a negative for some content, but in general, you could probably ignore that. But yeah, he has to play a lot of cards, but really his biggest issue is that this starting card here, Rapid Fire, Starts off with a base of 15% crit chance, hits twice, and then for every hit that crits, he will then generate a handgun bullet card. And this is then going to feed into something like Deadly Rounds, which is going to do damage based on the amount of bullet cards that you used in that turn, as well as Dance of the Demon, which deals damage equal to the bullet cards you used in that turn. And he doesn't have like a lot of bullet generation on his own. He's got this one skill, Stealth Reload, so that's one card to generate bullets. But then with Rapid Fire, that would be 2 cards, and that's a big change right there. And so this critting is kind of crucial for the rest of his kit to work. And because he has a lot of like small, like very small damage hits, them critting and dealing crit damage is going to be a lot more important as far as a character like himself who is going to, hit an enemy 10 times in a turn, but very small. So for those reasons, Luke is in C tier. Honestly, he could be put in D tier, but I don't think he's that bad. I still think that he's usable as a damage dealer. With certain upgrades, that rapid fire card can like crit more or can just guarantee generating bullets. So he's still usable, but he's not great. You're probably better off with any other damage dealer. Just like with Amir, you'd be better off with Maribell instead. Alright, Magna. Magna is the queen of countering, and she's got some pretty solid shield, but she mostly wants to be paired with, honestly, Maribell, but her, Khalipe, and Maribell, I ran that team a few times, and oh man, is it strong as hell. I'm gonna put Magna in A tier though, because I think that she really shines with other characters. Whereas somebody like Khalipe, I think she really just stands out on her own. You could throw her anywhere and Khalipe is gonna be amazing. And you could, likewise, you could throw Magna anywhere and she's still gonna be really solid, but I think she, truly hits her full potential when she has other characters that help her out. And then looking at her kit, it's very simple. It's just a lot of shielding and a lot of countering. She can apply a little bit of vulnerability herself so she can help amp up damage for herself and for the rest of your team. She has few powers here. Crystallization is strong. This gains you shield at the end of your turn, so that way it'll help you top off every turn if you end up not drawing shield cards, let's say. And then gaining, again, a bunch of counter, like off of this power. Anytime you gain shield from a card, she gains 1 counter. And then Ice Wall was actually really huge for a lot of encounters. It doesn't just gain you shield and counter, but then all of her counters that turn are now also going to apply AoE. They're going to hit everybody, and they're going to hit pretty dang hard. So yeah, Magna is very good. I think in general, you're going to see me rank shielders pretty high because shield is really strong. As long as you don't take damage in a fight, as long as you're not playing in deep trauma and some trauma condition is dropping your stress or, some enemy attack, if you don't take damage, you won't take additional stress damage. So in those cases, shield is a lot better, in my opinion, than heals. So for those reasons, Magna is hitting the A tier. Very good, very strong. Can't go wrong if you end up pulling Magna out of your starter banner. But on to Maribell. She's a tough one for me. I want to throw her into A, but I'm like heavily biased. She ended up being really good, really strong as far as like budget options go. But honestly, if we're going to talk about competing on the levels of like Magna, Khalipe, Cassius, she's just all right. I think as soon as we get like even one better shielder than her, then she falls down immediately. So I'm going to put her in B. She's still incredibly solid, really good, and way better in my opinion than Amir as far as like benefiting your team. But what I do like about Maribell is she's very flexible. She's got some really strong shielding capabilities, like her 2-drop, 264%. I don't know if it's actually 264%. I think that this is a screenshot with potentials. I think it's like 260. But yeah, this is a strong shield for a 2-drop. Pulverize, I think, is overall just not a great keyword. So this card is kind of like not great in my opinion. Pulverize is like you do additional damage if the enemy has shield. And this could become more important down into the end game, late game stuff. But for the most part, playing through the first 3 difficulties, I didn't encounter a lot of enemies where they're going to have shields up and this pulverized damage is really going to matter. Kind of the same thing here for Maribell Shelter Mark II. But the difference is this card gains you shield based on the amount of damage she does. So if you're debuffing an enemy, they've got vulnerability, they've got drop defense, you have buff defense, strength, whatever. This not only does some pretty decent damage, but it gains you so much shield. This one was like a huge card for me. One of her best, if not her best card, in my opinion. So this card alone is like incredible. If I could remove the rest of her deck and just have that card, I'd be super happy. And then again, the rest of these cards are like fine. Wolf's Dome giving you some counter. This skill is actually really good here. This 1-drop, the shield encounters whatever, but being able to apply 1 weaken, there isn't a whole lot of like specific debuffs in the game currently as far as like per character. You know, like getting weaken specifically is not very easy to get. Getting vulnerability is not always super easy to get. Her having this in her kit is really big. And then Shelter Strike, this is one where it's like gonna more so depend on your team. If you have like a heavy shield team, this card's amazing. I mostly used her in teams where she was the only one shielding, so Shelter Strike ended up just kind of being a dead draw for me most of the time. So Maribell, she has a lot of great utility, she's got a lot of potential, but she also has a lot of dead cards in my opinion that you have to remove unless you're playing her in very specific teams. So for that, she's going into B, but I really want to put her in A. We're going to skip over Nia for a sec because I want to talk about Rei first. Rei is she's a sub DPS, support, healer, kind of. This one tears me up, but I think I have to put Rei in C for now, but I think that she's team dependent. I think she's very team dependent, and I think once we get deeper into the game, she could potentially be boosted up a lot more. I think Rei's ideal team is somewhere where she's actually helping a hyper carry because, well, we'll just look at her kit instead. So one of the problems with a lot of her cards is like Strike of Darkness, for example here, deals some damage, increases the basic attack card damage by 100% for 1 turn. Right here, 200% damage for 1 turn, morale 4. She's got a lot of really good buff cards, especially like Resonating Darkness, increased damage of cards with cost 1 by 40%. And I think one of her upgrades as well, like this can change, it could be like 0 cost or something like that, or it could just boost the damage even higher. So she has a lot of damage amplification. The problem is, it costs AP. Like Strike of Darkness is really good because it's got lead, so you have that 50% chance of this being a 0 cost in hand. But the other thing is also like kind of trying to focus around her own damage, but she doesn't do a whole lot of damage. She's mostly here just to buff other people, as well as some of these buffs being a little too specific. And like Dark Condensation, this is one of those cards where I think does amazingly if somebody is doing like a lot of hits in a single card. But if you were to pair with somebody like Beryl, this is 1 cost for 100% damage, which is not a lot. But in a team where you can buff a single character, you can get a bunch of AP like Mika, but ideally a Mika that could buff as well. I think she can shine, but just in her base kit and without being able to kind of build out that kind of hyper carry team, I think Rei does fall short just a little bit. So for those reasons, I'm going to put her in C, but I think she's entirely viable and she's completely fine. So yeah, I think she could be higher depending on the team, and especially when we see future characters that potentially are going to pair very well with her. Oh yeah, one of the other things was her buff that buffs the basic cards. Most of the basic attack cards you want to get rid of anyway. Basic cards are going to be worse than pretty much any other card you can get. So yeah, she belongs here, unfortunately, but she's okay. We skipped over this one specifically to talk about Rei, because I think Rei ranks worse on this chart because Nia exists. I don't know if I'd put her S tier, because I don't think on her own she carries a team. She's just kind of like, you know, hands down the best damage buffer. So for that reason, I'm going to put her in A, because you can have runs where she doesn't do, in my opinion, enough for a team, but she is still amazing, and she's damn near S tier. If you get her deeper into the game, you know, like mid to late in a run, and she gets some good upgrades, she's definitely S when you can stack morale and whatnot. So yeah, Nia's kit kind of feeds off of doing extra attacks. She allows any random ally to do more damage, like off of her G cord, or just what I said right there. And then her upgrade right here, this 1 cost, Nia's Curiosity, 2 morale. Each stack of morale is a 20% damage buff. So yeah, the higher and higher you can keep stacking morale is a lot. So if you can open up a fight with her card and her ego skill, that is 5 morale right there. So that's 100% more damage just for the rest of the fight. That's huge. You know, it's not conditional. They're just one and done. And because they're upgrade, or the Curiosity is an upgrade, you play it once, it's out of your deck for the rest of the fight. So you can draw into the other better cards that'll actually do damage and keep you alive. Then she's got these other cards that play cards for free. It's a bit of an RNG, you know, factor to it, but I like that. You know, Mute Accent here, playing a card off the top of your drop pile. Who knows what you get, but you know, that's a cool card. And then Adagio is really big. And if you draw it early enough, you can pretty much manipulate, you know, playing out your best card. So it's activate extra attack on 2 random attack cards from the graveyard. What this actually does is it just plays 2 attack cards out of your trash. So if you play 2 really strong cards right before playing Adagio, and then you play Adagio, you're guaranteed to play those 2 really strong cards. So Yeah, Adagio, her morale stacking, she essentially just lets somebody else do more damage. And like G-Cord here can be upgraded so that way it'll be like your highest attack ally will be forced to attack instead. So you can kind of guarantee a little bit of that hyper carry team. So yeah, Nia is really good. As far as healing goes, she kind of sucks ass though. So you don't really take her for that, but yeah, she offers a lot of damage for your team. She's another character I could say is easily argued to be into S tier. In fact, one of these later choices I'm about to go over might be a little unfair to then put Nia into A tier, so my bias is going to show a little bit. But before then, we have Mika, easy S tier. The only downside I really have to Mika is she doesn't shield, which isn't really a downside. That's just not what she does. Not every character shields, and for the most part, any other character that does shield, that isn't kind of revolving their kit around shield, it kind of just sucks and you'd rather get rid of it anyway. But yeah, she doesn't shield, and she has to play a lot of cards, which the bias is showing. Blue Pot, I had one run where the enemy boss, and it's partially due to not like knowing the fight entirely, but yeah, getting to the final boss and it being like literally like 20, I think it was like 20 HP from dead. Yeah, it wasn't great. I don't even remember if Mika was in the team or not, but yeah, she needs to play a lot of cards, so that's kind of the only negative I will say, but it's not enough of a negative for me to say she's not S tier. I don't think I need to really go over her kit too much. She heals a bunch, her damage sucks, and she gives you a bunch of AP. And AP generation is huge, card draw is also huge. Then she's also got this wave and save mechanic. Wave is when you gain whenever you gain 3 stacks of it, you gain 1 AP once you hit those 3 stacks. And then save is like energy retain. So if you don't spend 1 energy your next turn, you'll have that 1 extra energy. Yeah, even despite my minor gripe of a negative, she's S tier, and she's free. You start off with her. It's incredible. I'm sure they'll retool her a little bit because she is insanely good. You can pretty much slap Mika on any team and it works. So yeah, Mika S tier. Now my boy Owen. I probably put Owen on damn near every team I played with. I don't know why. He's just like a simple, basic, chill dude. And yeah, I didn't mean to set him there, but that's where he's going. He's going to B tier. He's solid. There's nothing wrong with Owen. He just doesn't do like amazing damage. He doesn't do a whole lot of things. He just does damage. He does simple, pure, basic damage. And yeah, he's basically somewhere in the line of Beryl. But in my opinion, I think he's better than Beryl. Unfortunately, one of his cards was a little bugged. This, where is it? Wind Riding. Wind Riding was a little bugged. If Wind Shard was ever upgraded, I think this basically didn't work anymore as far as bringing it back to your hand. But yeah, he's got like this very strong AoE that he gets off of one of his epiphanies. So you don't start with it, unfortunately, but it's a very strong starting multiplier. Big damage. But the big thing that pretty much his entire kit revolves around is just Wind Charge. Your next attack card you use gains 1 extra hit. So now Wind Slash, instead of doing 220% damage, it's now doing 440% damage. So just being able to double damage of most any card, you know, besides already multi-hit cards, just being able to add that extra hit onto any card is insanely strong. And then Wind Riding, when this gets upgraded, you know, it's a very strong, even at base, honestly, it's a strong shield for a 1-drop. So very good. And when it's actually fixed, it being able to pull back Wind Charge is also going to be huge. But he's insanely strong for early encounters, and he scales well into the late game. His biggest thing though is that he really wants like strong neutral cards throughout your run. So that's kind of like his biggest negative in my opinion. But he's like one of the most simple characters you'll ever play with. Honestly, Owen and Mika, both very simple. Yeah, Owen, very good. Beryl might be able to have higher damage potential, but goddammit, that Wind Charge, it is so good. And that AoE opening up early, oh my gosh, it's so good. It makes runs so much smoother. I almost wanted to move this to go over this one last. I'm putting Selena in S tier, and might get flack for that one, but she's just genuinely like kind of insane as far as a damage dealer goes. That's why I don't really want to put her here, because she's just a damage dealer. So genuinely, I think she probably goes into A tier, but just getting her off rip, holy shit, the amount of damage she can output is insane. And her being a 4-star that can apply the red damage passion weakness onto enemies, so now they actually take red weakness damage, it's insane. Her entire kit is insane. And it's honestly probably mostly from the fact that she is like the only 4-star. I don't even know if there's any 5-stars really in the game yet that kind of revolve around this, but Mark Mark is just insanely strong. All that it is it just allows Selena to do an additional attack to an enemy whenever they are hit, or whenever any enemy is hit, I should say. She will then do an extra attack on whatever target is marked. So she just ends up putting out a lot of damage for doing nothing. The only thing is you have to get it out there first. And then like drone bombing, a 1 cost AoE, 150% damage, not crazy damage there, but then also applying that 1 passion weakness. She can get a lot of breaks into any form of content, even if it's, you know, not red weak. So she can get AP back, she can do a lot more damage, she can do a lot more follow-ups with her mark. She just does a lot. She does a lot of heavy lifting as far as DPSs go, especially in a 4-star kit. She's just insanely good. Again, I might be biased. I kind of just pulled her on the fly, tried her out, and I was like, holy shit, she's amazing. But yeah, Selena, super cracked. And with Nia, ooh, baby. So I'm putting her there. But realistically, I think she's probably actually an A tier. But I'm putting her in S, goddammit, she's that good. Now on to Tressa. Tressa, I already mentioned it into another video. I thought that originally I would put her in A tier. I think I'm gonna put her in B tier though. I just think that without gear yet, Agony just doesn't do enough damage. Yeah, you can stack up a lot, but it kind of requires a lot just to end up doing all these like big stacks of Agony when you could just use somebody else that does a lot of damage just outright. So eventually when we get gear, and if that can boost her Agony damage, you know, significantly more than it's already getting boosted by her stats alone, because it doesn't really go up a whole lot, then I think this can go higher. But yeah, you can see her kit here. It is like the Slay the Spire Shiv kit. You know, she is the Silent. She generates a bunch of these shadow daggers, and she does Agony, which is just poison damage. So damage over time. And it's all very small, but it's like, you know, hit him a bunch of times. But then I also think she's very combo/card dependent, like Curse here. For a turn, whenever you use an attack card, you apply it to Agony. Thank God this is 0 cost. Like, this card is really good, but as enemies get more HP, that Agony is doing a lot less, but still very good. But then you also need to draw a bunch of attack cards with this. Same thing for like Shadow Reload. This is a 1 cost, heals you, and then creates this other Shadow Dagger, which does like some okay damage, but then it's also okay healing for 1 cost. And then it generates a card, which is another 1 cost. So to even really get all that value, you need to have 2 AP. Now the Shadow Dagger does retain, but I don't think it's good enough on its own to really merit the whole 2 cost deal. The exception being Vital Attack. This isn't like a crazy card, but 80% times 3 for 2 cost. And then if they have Agony on them, that's another 50% damage increase. So now 130% times 3, 390% off of a 2 cost card. This one is really good. With additional Agony damage, other shivs. So it's very good. I just think she's a little AP hungry. She's very like hand dependent. So I feel like you need the AP, you need the draw. Agony kind of falls off, and then you need to play, again, I'm kind of not factoring it in this time, but she needs to play a lot of cards. But it's more so everything else that she kind of needs to kind of perform and function into the later game. But yeah, she's still solid. Yeah, for those reasons, I'm putting her in B tier. And goddammit, I wish I pulled a lot more of these characters, because this is honestly a lot of the roster that I kind of only just give my opinion on, because I didn't like experience them firsthand. And it's crazy that I pulled Lukas on the last day. He's the only 4-star I didn't really get to test, so I don't have any strong thoughts on him. And he's a 4-star. It's kind of wild. So, you know, get lucky on those 4-stars. You might not get them all. Hugo, I'm going to kind of skip over because his translations are like really dog shit. No pun intended. The Hunt Commence thing, I think it's like extra attacks or extra attack damage that he does. But I don't really know too much about that buff to really say a whole lot. But yeah, he looks like he has a neat kit. And from what I've heard from other people, like he's honestly like pretty insane, pretty damn good. But I just don't understand enough about his kit. So I think I've seen people put him into the S and A tier. So apparently he's really strong. But just to be on the safer side, I'll just put him in A. I honestly don't know enough about him, and the translations are so bad on that kit that I really can't say a lot, because like it says Hunt Commence here. Then apparently there's also like a Hunt Start, and then there's Commence the Hunt, which I assume is also Hunt Commence. And yeah, he's just it's kind of confusing. I think he just does a bunch of extra attacks, so he just hits a bunch of times. Yeah, trying to read it a little more, it looks like this will proc his Hunt Commence stacks whenever you use a targeted attack card, and then you also get to boost those extra attacks by an additional 40% off of whatever the base damage is. So it sounds like he definitely has like a very high like damage potential, very high damage ceiling. Kayron, my chase right here. Wish I pulled him. Looks very fun. all I can say is after looking at Kayron and Hugo's kit, I can safely say any of these characters I didn't pull, this is all for fun. Don't trust any of my assessments on these characters because it's hard to judge just reading off of the cards. So Kayron's big thing is he generates a bunch of these trash cards and then we'll get mostly additional damage based on however those trash cards are consumed. Usually he'll banish them himself for more damage. Like here, Black Hole increases damage per banish card. Banish is just exhausted cards, so when they're completely removed from the deck for the rest of the game, which is what all of these void cards that he generates does. So it looks like he wants to generate a bunch of trash, which costs AP, and then he has to spend a bunch of AP to then get rid of them and then get that additional damage. Unless he plays this power here, Oath of Vanity, which looks like it changes all of those trash cards that he makes into cards that actually do something. Not anything amazing, but they'll still at least do something. But I think you have to play, I don't see any cards here. It's probably through an upgrade in some of his cards, but none of these like actually banish those trash cards themselves. And I'm pretty sure those trash cards cost 1 AP in order to use them for no effects, in order to banish them. So yeah, he's a tough one. I think that Kayron's potential is very high. I think just off rip reading it though, putting a bunch of trash in your hand that you then have to have a bunch of AP in order to get rid of it, in order to get a bunch of boosted damage, that does not bode well, at least without that AP generation. So for those reasons, I'm gonna put Kayron probably in C tier. I think he just needs a lot to get going, but then his potential ceiling is very high. So if you build a team very catered around him, he's probably closer into here, but just looking at his kit on his own without actually pairing him with a full team, I'm just going to put him there into C. Unfortunately, he's still probably better than Luke though. All right, we're gonna try and speedrun the rest of these characters because I think this is taking a little too long, but Lukas, honestly, off rip, he just looks better than Luke. The only negative I see here is that his bullet cards, I don't know, well, you can see him there, but his bullet cards actually cost 1. So he's also going to be generating bullets and then burning bullets, but they're going to be more expensive. But I think just seeing here, RPG 7, when you exhaust a bullet card, deal 50% damage of 1 extra attack, AoE, so to all enemies. That just sounds like a nutty card on its own. And paired with Luke, that does sound pretty crazy, but safely, I'm going to put him in C because he still sounds like he's going to need a lot of AP in order to get himself running. But again, he's still probably a bit better than Luke, just on his own at least. But together they do sound pretty crazy because that's any bullet card, and so far I think those are the only 2 characters that generate bullets. So being able to generate the 0 cost bullets to then play those for free and then get those RPG 7 procs going off, it does sound like a pretty bonkers combination. All right, Rin, if I heard it one time, I heard it 100 times because she is probably the most popular character in the game currently. But I've heard that she's not amazing, or she at least doesn't feel amazing to play, mostly because you have to get into this dark cloud stance. And then for some of these cards that she gets, or maybe through certain upgrades, being in that stance will allow you to use them or for you to get additional benefits. But then I also heard that she also has potentially the highest ceiling as far as single target damage goes. So Rin sounds like she can be very good, but she doesn't feel amazing, and it does seem like she does need to RNG a bit into getting into that Dark Cloud stance for a bit of her higher damage potentials. Probably safely somewhere here in A or B tier. I'm gonna put her in B, mostly because just reading on the Dark Cloud stance and needing that for certain things, certain benefits, means that unconditionally you can go, I worded that wrong, you can go to another character who doesn't have these harsh conditions and just use them instead, and you're probably going to benefit a lot more. And it's going to be a lot more consistent as far as damage is concerned. So for that, I'm going to put her into B. And then of course, caveat, she has potential to be higher, probably with the right setup, right team, right gear, etc. Veronica here looks really fun, but she also looks not amazing. So what she does is she creates these ballista cards. These are these cards down here that my big head is probably covering up. But all that these do is they'll sit in your hand, and at the end of your turn, they will pop off and they will do damage and some additional effect based on which card it is to a random enemy. There's already 2 problems. 1, it doesn't seem spammable, and 2, it's a random enemy. You don't get to pick there. So for those reasons, it's already not looking so hot for her. She also gains these reload stacks, so it's kind of nice that she self-sustains in this. Reload just boosts her, I think it's specifically her ballista card damage by 20% per stack. I don't know what that caps out at because you do have to increase the max stack with this power here. but it is nice that it self-sustains that damage buff. But you could easily just slot in somebody else who buffs damage, you know, unconditionally and won't fall off. So overall, it looks like she has a really fun and interesting kit, but it seems like the damage potential just might not all be there, and she does seem very dependent on at least pulling these powers. She has a lot of powers here, and it doesn't look like she can gain a lot of like ballista cards in a single turn. This probably changes with upgrades, but yeah, she seems okay. I'm gonna put her into C tier. I'm sure she can be a lot better. She's probably a lot better than all of these guys, but it just seems like very slow rolling damage, whereas if you can cycle out other characters, then it's probably a lot easier just to end up looping a lot more damage than it is with somebody like Veronica. So I think she has a very hard cap on her damage potential there. And Mei Lin, something is bugged with her or wasn't translated properly, so it's kind of hard to tell what she did exactly for one of these things. I don't know if it was her Embers buff or it was her ego skill, something like that. So not sure if this is all accurate here, but she can, off of her power, she can buff all of her attack card damage by 40%, and she can apply 1 red weakness to a target the first time she uses an attack card. And she can amp up weak point damage, which also has retain, which is huge, for 2 turns, also huge. And when she gets kills, she gains 2 AP. Honestly, she seems like she has a lot of like crazy single target damage, and similarly to Selena, has that passion weakness application that she can do, which means you're going to have a lot more break, you're going to have a lot more damage, and you're going to have a lot more AP. And she can also has this card here that doesn't exhaust, is free, which draws some of your basic cards back, which would be these 4 starting ones, and reduces their cost by 1. Actually, I don't know if the power would count, but yeah, these would be her basic cards. And then it seems like she benefits a lot off of getting those basic cards. She gets a lot of free damage, she gets some draw power, and she gets a lot of break. Honestly, she looks really damn good. I'm gonna put her in A tier, god damn it. I might even, she might even be into the S tier. I mean, just being able to apply that weakness onto any enemy and being able to hit a bunch is very good. I think arguably if I had played her, I might have thrown her in S tier. But yeah, just reading that off rip, she looks really good. Renoa, I'm a little spoiled here. So her kit is entirely revolving around making dirge bullets and then using those again, kind of like Kayron, and then benefiting off of those cards in different ways. The biggest issue I see here is a lot of this stuff requires you to discard your cards, and without a lot of draw power, having to convert a lot of cards that you already have doesn't seem great, especially once you trim down a deck and you have like mostly nothing but good cards in your hand. It's a lot harder of a sell to trash cards in order to generate these bullets, which it's cut off here, but it is a bullet, it exhausts, it does 160% damage, and anytime it is moved to the trash, you perform a extra attack on a random enemy, doing 80% damage. But another negative I'm seeing here is that she benefits a lot from keeping dirge bullets in her hand for a lot of these cards. It's not like the amount that you've trashed or are in your trash or that are in your deck. It's in your hand. These bullets don't retain, so they're not going to stay in your hand for a turn, multiple turns. They're there and then they're gone. And if you don't sack them off immediately and they somehow end up hitting your trash, that means that you're going to get shuffled back in your deck and you're going to have to draw these dirge bullets rather than other cards that are going to benefit you or are going to be situationally better for you, like taking less damage off of shields or healing, or other cards that draw you more cards or AP, whatever, any other cards really. So honestly, just looking at that kit, I don't know what she needs, if she needs a rework or what, but I'm putting her in C tier because that's honestly not great. Sounds like she needs a lot of AP. She needs the draw power, and then she needs to somehow have a bunch of dirge bullets in hand when you use these cards. You only have 10 cards in hand, so... And now Orlea, she looks like a really interesting character. She really plays around retain cards, and what she does is create a bunch of cards that you will then retain, so that way you can kind of have them for any situation. So like here's Sacred Censer. She has, it's a 1-drop that generates 2 creation cards, which are all of these cards here, which all have retain, all have exhaust. And I think most of them have preserve. Some of them, I think, mistakenly call them retain. Or maybe not, I'm not sure. Preserve is an effect that will stack every turn that you hold a card in hand And retain would usually mean that it just needs to have stayed in your hand for at least one turn. She's got a lot of cards that proc preserve stacks, so we'll end up scaling these more. So scaling her damage more, scaling shield or heal, and then even this one here, which will scale for a turn and boosting all damage. So she does seem strong, she does seem really neat. The bad thing I would say is the fact that you have to retain all of these cards for their benefits, you know, to use them properly in the right turns. That means you will have less hand space to actually have other cards for other things or to use other cards that would draw you more cards. But at the same time, retain is also an insanely good gimmick because then you can sit on cards that you might need for, you know, like a big attack coming up. So you can sit on a bunch of shield, or you draw into some really good attacking cards and then like that damage amp card. So situationally, I think she has a very strong, very solid kit. Really the only drawback would be the fact that, you know, she needs to sit on those cards, but that's also her benefit. So it's like a double-edged sword. It's both really good and, you know, situationally can be pretty bad. But, you know, if you're a smart card player, sitting on enough retain cards and getting enough of your preserve effects, I think that she sounds really good. But she doesn't sound like unconditionally like really good like Mika, but she is all-rounder and can fit a lot of different things, being able to shield, amplify damage, and heal, as well as dealing damage herself. So she seems really fun and she seems really good. So I think I'm pretty content putting her here. And for the most part, I like this list. I feel really bad for Amir being on D tier. I just don't think she does enough. I mean, being fair, I could probably put Luke down here with her, but I don't think that he necessarily belongs there, especially because with, you know, actually having a proper gear system being able to give him crit rate, I think that he will actually be a lot more solid. And then the rest down here are just unreleased. So yeah, that's the list. This is unfortunately really, really long. Hopefully I'm able to shave this down a lot. And again, to reiterate, this is all in good fun. It's, you know, partially my experience, partially just off of what we've, you know, been able to read and to look at. You can call this my unofficial reroll tier list as well. And it's really not that serious. You know, if you played, you know, like Tressa, you know, and you're like, no, Tressa's insanely good, she's S tier. Cool, she's S tier, you know. This is all just, you know, opinion, fun. We're just here to have a good time. So thanks everybody for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.